Hi. Um, so this morning, I will step through what it might look like to start doing Windows event log collection at scale using LimaCharlie. So LimaCharlie has a whole bunch of features, allows you to do a lot of things. But I thought I'd step through kind of a really, really practical example of, hey, I have a whole bunch of Windows boxes and I want to start at large scale collecting Windows event logs, and I want to do that like LimaCharlie style, which is, um, you know, we don't want you to do IT, we want you to do cybersecurity. So instead of having to go and set up servers and set up all the complicated infrastructure, with LimaCharlie, you can kind of do that at scale really easily. So this is really meant to be really very, very practical. Um, so cool. I'll just step through it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check that sound and everything is good, because that would be pretty bad. All right, we're good to go. So let me just switch to my screen share here. All right, good stuff. All right. So we're going to start right from the beginning, make it really simple, and show how straightforward this really is. So I have a whole bunch of tenants already, but I'm just going and I'm going to create a new one. Let's start with this. So I'm going to create a new tenant, organization specifically for this demo. And what we're going to do is we're going to enroll a Windows box that lives somewhere in GCP right now. Pretty straightforward. We're going to install a sensor on that Windows box, a host level EDR sensor, because that's where we can do the Windows event log collection more easily. Then we're going to set up some collection rules to just say, here's what we want to start collecting from Windows event logs. Hopefully we're going to see those starting to roll in. If not, we're going to go and try to trigger some stuff. And as they come in, maybe what I'll do is I'll show kind of, a basic Windows event log DNR rule. So the DNR engine is what allows you to do rules to detect things in real time against Windows event logs, and I'll show you how I would go about creating a forwarder specifically for Windows event logs to some other other thing that you have. Maybe you have a data lake or something like that. Cool. So here we go. We're going to go into our tenant. First things first is we want to install a sensor. So I'm going to create a key. In this case, it's going to be called, it doesn't really matter, but let's call it server, because that's going to be servers. So I'm setting up a tag. In this case, there will be some advantage in showing tags, but not a big deal. So I have my installation key, so I could install as many agents as I want. But in this specific case, what I will do is, I forgot about something. I have a Windows server installed, but it's a headless server. That's not good. That is not good. All right. Well, let me just. This is the live thing. Um, let's just see if we can get our installer over there pretty easily. So maybe through PowerShell. Okay. So it sounds like this might work. Apologies for the delay. I just need to download the installer. So the nice thing about the installers, they're universal. So you can download it from wherever. Or because LimaCharlie, you'll see we don't really hide anything. We're infrastructure first. So it means that you can also download it directly off of a static set of URLs. In this case, it's hps app.limaCharlie.io/get/windows/64. And we are going to download this to the root, and we're going to call it sensor.exe. Let's see if that worked. Yeah, it worked. Amazing. Okay. So okay. So sensor.exe-i. And I'm going to take my installation key. So it's really that straightforward. So I've got my installer, it's an exe. I'm going to put my installation key -i and run it. There we go. It's installed. Oh, sorry for the delay here. So if I go back here, I should see it pop in. There we go. My sensor is coming in. It's online. Kernel's showing unavailable. It's probably just going to take a minute for it to come in online. No matter. So we've got a box called server. It's got a different name, and it's got a tag server. That means that if we do a sanity check here, I could come here. Sorry, I've got paranoid authentication turned on, so it's asking me for every tab. So in theory, if I come here, okay. So here we go. I just went live against it right through LimaCharlie Cloud just to do sanity check. Like it's running, it's talking to us, everything's good. I can see like network, file system, processes going to take a minute because it's the first boot, so it's starting to hash everything, check all the signatures, and then in a minute or two, it's going to pop up and show us all the processes. Everything's signed. Hopefully, it should be. I'm not even going to wait for that. So, the first step, what we're trying to do is, this is obviously like a simulation, to demo. We could have hundreds or thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of sensors. It really doesn't change anything, like how you would go in and you would set that up. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in artifact collection. So artifacts in LimaCharlie are kind of everything that is not the telemetry generated first class by LimaCharlie. So LimaCharlie doesn't rely on Windows event logs, ETL, or anything else. It really is standalone in the box. So we generate our own telemetry, a whole bunch of advantages. That's how we can support pretty much everything on the planet. Um, but every now and then you need to ingest other things than strictly, the events that LimaCharlie generates. Windows event logs is one of those. So Windows generates it. So it's an artifact, but artifacts could be a ton of different things. They could be like the raw Windows event logs from disk. So we used to only support that. You could collect at recurring interval it from disk, and you still can. But what we're going to show you is really the method to do it from in real time. So now we support real-time Windows event log collection. The advantage there is it's going to allow you to receive them in real time. As I'll show you the DNR rules, so that the engine that does the detection operates at wire speed. So you'll be able to respond at wire speed to whatever is going on the endpoint. And if you want to create detections that mix between LimaCharlie events and Windows event logs, now you can. So our engine supports super simple rules like evil.exe started, all the way to very contextual rules like if this happened within that many seconds of that, and like the whole statefulness of the detection. Now you're able to merge them with other LimaCharlie events and Windows event log events. And so do timing between them, do relationship, all that good stuff. So I'm going to create a new rule for collection. I'm going to call it WEL. It should operate on Windows. And in this case, we can kind of ignore a bunch of those things because this is really mainly geared towards artifacts that are usually on disk. So if you have, you're on the Linux box and you're collecting syslog, it's very disk centric, where you'll say, for example, I want to retain like that particular log file for that many days. And you will be able to, to like set up like fog patterns and deal with SSL, all that stuff. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I want to collect Windows event logs from all my Windows boxes that have the tag server. Pretty straightforward. And the pattern, instead of being just a file, I'm actually going to go in our doc. Just bigger. So Windows event log in artifact collection. This is what I want. And we will talk a little bit about Windows event logs in a couple of spots, but really the bit I'm interested in is at the very end here. So we have a section that's specific for Windows event logs collection, and we'll give you like the different ways to, how you want to configure things if you're getting the files on disk at rest, or if you're getting them in real time. So in this case, we're getting them in real time. The big thing I was looking for is, okay, what's the format of that expression? It's just a slightly different, file format, path format that will indicate, like, really we want the live feed of this. So I'm just going to copy this because I'm lazy. And we have some examples actually. So yeah, okay, let's switch back. Here we go. So I'm going to say, the path that I want. In this case, the source is that I'm going to ask for is system. In those sources, like what I'm going to be configuring here, we have some links here. It's not magic voodoo stuff. It's really the sources as defined by Microsoft in Windows. So we're using public APIs. So that you can follow whatever instructions Microsoft tells you in terms of what are the source names, as well as the XPath filter expression that you can provide as well. to not only do we allow you to select a specific source, but you could also filter all the way down to specific event IDs, or using XPath, you could also go into very specific values in different fields. So it's pretty powerful. In this case, I'm just going to say I'm going to collect everything from the system source and star. So all of the things. I will also go and say the security, I think is what it's called. Yeah, security and system. So security star. So I'll take those two sources that we want to subscribe to. We want to get those in real time, so I'm going to hit save. Oh, it's asking for retention time. In this case, it's pointless. This is a new feature, so we should probably just remove that. There we go. So that role has been done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat a little bit. Usually, especially if you're dealing with a very large fleet, it might be on the order of like 10 minutes for the whole fleet to eventually become consistent and have like that specific, collection on all of those. Because I don't want to wait, I'm kind of lazy. So I can see our sensors there, online, kernels up. I'm going to switch and I'm going to restart the service. Did that work? Stop. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to stop the service, and then I'm going to restart it, and give it a minute, and then we're going to go have a look, and we'll see the event start to stream in. All right, so it is stopped. Start it again. Okay. So while we're waiting for that, again, sanity for the demo. I just don't want to be, figuring out just exactly how long it takes and all that. What we can do is we can look at the DNR rules that we can create. So at the detection, specifically of interest is that we are adding. We already had support for Sigma, which is a pretty cool thing. Let's go there. So Sigma is a project, an open source project that allows you to, take rules that are coded in a specific way and convert them into a bunch of different engines. Usually it's a lot more around searching through logs, like Splunk type of thing. In our case, and I should say, they have a big repo with a ton of rules in it that are pre-made for people, and people can contribute to and all that. So let's kind of go into one to show a little bit what that looks like. So I'm going to pick a random, I don't know, alert mimikatz keywords. So, that's one of those rules. And let's pick something that's a bit more really Windows specific. Here we go. So this is saying, it's looking for the event ID in Windows event log, and a path of lsas.exe. So they have all these rules in that repo in that common format. So LimaCharlie has a what they call a backend, which is one of those engines that converts into something else. The big difference is that our engine it won't give you a search rule. It will give you DNR rules. So rules that operate at wire speed against the data coming from LimaCharlie. So you can really turn those rules into, very trivially operational rules. And in fact, we have a service that you can subscribe to one click in your tenant. I'm not going to do it, but you could go and you would just go in add-ons and services, and if I just look for Sigma, just click on, and it's free. and we're going to take the hundreds of rules and apply them on your organization directly. We used to, because we only used to grab the files from disk for Windows event logs, we only, we converted the rules there. We have now that the generation of DNR rules from Sigma into the live EDR feed. So not only when you enable it, not only will we look for it in kind of an asynchronous way if you collect Windows event logs, but we'll do it at wire speed. So you'll be able to generate alerts. Some people straight up generate alerts. Some people pick and choose which ones they want to alert on. All that stuff. Um, so yeah, this is going to be very cool. And let's. I'm trying to find the best way. I think I've got a rule that I converted recently. That we can create in our org, um, and kind of like keep it simple like that. I don't know if it's just have a quick look. I may not have it handy, unfortunately. But let me show you what that actually looks like. So, because this is all open source, we have a CI/CD pipeline that will generate those rules, and we can actually go and view them very directly. So there's a branch where the rules get generated, LC rules. So let's look at the rule we just saw, the same thing. So this is what this looks like in LimaCharlie. It's really straightforward. You get two components. This is what I want to detect, and this is what I want to do when I detect it. By default, we generate a report action, which is just create an alert for this, like a detection. And we automatically import all the metadata that is provided in that original rule. So we'll tell you, like the author, what they believe the level of threat was, various links, tags, all that stuff's in there. Right now, this targets the Windows event logs artifact, but very shortly, it's that feature is in a PR right now, but it's going to be applied in real time. All right, so actually, yeah, okay, sure. Let's go see here. Looks like our box is up. I could go and have a look at the historical data we have about it. So what I'm doing is I've got the Insight storage enabled here. So it gives me 1 year of full telemetry retention. So I'm looking at all the events that we got back from that box. We have not yet received the Windows event log, unfortunately. It might be a minute or something. But I can see like all the events on that box. So that's pretty good. We just have to wait for a minute for the Windows event logs. What could we? I wonder if I could generate something a bit more directly. I'm going to try to execute a couple of things and see. Hopefully, we generate some Windows event logs here. We're starting to see more events coming through. can I do? It's my first time deploying on a Windows server, so I don't know if there's any catches as to how the Windows servers work, the headless Windows servers, I should say. Actually, I've got an idea. I'll log back in. I'm pretty sure this is going to generate some detections. Uh, well, that's not good at all. Apparently, I exited from the shell, and that completely the shell's not coming back. Right. That'll teach me to do a demo on a platform I've never used before. Let's see if more is starting to come back. Yeah, you can see some of my activity. So I mean, indirectly, that's kind of an interesting demo. So I've been running a few different commands um, that do kind of interesting activity. This can show you a little bit what you can see with LimaCharlie. So you'll see the events coming through. Code identity will give you um, partially deduplicated hashes or the identity of a piece of code. So if I have a look here, I can see all of the hashes as well as a signature related to it. So signature information, which is pretty neat. Um, Maybe what I'll do is I'll reboot that host. That might bring back um, bring back my shell. Um, let's try that. First, I'll just do one last. Oh, actually, one thing I'm going to check. If for whatever reason, let's see if that's the issue. So LimaCharlie allows you to very specifically, at a very high level of granularity, specify what events you want to be coming back automatically from the cloud. And in this case, I want to make sure that because the live Windows Event Log events are brand new on LimaCharlie, I want to make sure that I enable the exfil control service, which will remove the default profile that gets applied and allows you to now go in and customize the profile. And I will want to go in and make sure that, okay, yeah, that it is enabled. Maybe the default profile did not have it. That's always possible. And I'm going to be rebooting the box just so I can get my shell back, which is kind of silly. But apparently that's how Windows works. All right, so I'm going to reset it. All right. So we're just going to have to wait, hopefully just a minute, for that sensor to come back online. What we can do in the meantime is I can actually try to port that rule. Should be pretty easy. Manually to a DNR rule in LimaCharlie to the live event. I don't know if we'll be able to demo triggering that rule, but at least we can do something close to that. So I copied it. I'm just going to go here. So these are my DNR rules. So the rules that will get applied in real time. So I'm going to call this test rule, and I'm going to go here. We want to adjust this a little bit to be into the two components that are relevant here. There we go. And then the response, which is all this. There we go. So the response we will leave as is. It's pretty straightforward. Here, I'm just going to remove the things that say that this rule should apply on artifacts. Instead, I want it to apply to, I could specify EDR. It's the default is through the EDR. And the slight difference is that it's going to look like this. So that's the prefix of so that's the path within the event, and you'll see exactly what that looks like. That is what it should look like. I'm just going to create this. Just gotta copy it in case there's a problem. I need one more thing. Here we go. I need to specify the event, the type of event that I'm targeting. So I'm going to grab this create. There we go. Role created. And it's right there. So if I go in, yep, perfect. So our sensor should be back. Yeah. And the indicator always lags a little bit here in the web UI. So it should be coming back online. So let's go take a look again. I should note that the reset of the box that I just did has nothing to do with actual LimaCharlie. You can install the sensor at runtime, and it'll do the collection, like all the things work without any reboot whatsoever. It's more that I'm impatient in this specific case. Here we go. All right. So the issue was probably our profile from earlier, and rebooting the box, rebooting the service kind of just forced a immediate update. That's why I did the reboot. I'm impatient during demo or stream. Cool. So I'm going to only show WEL events, so I only got one. That's fine. More are coming, but the historical view is a tiny bit behind. So again, I'm just not anxious. I want to see the results right away. Cool. So here's our Windows event log. I can see the details of that event. If I look into it, I can see this is an event ID 6, which honestly, I don't remember all my event IDs. It's been a while since I've done that. But device name HBSACQ tells me that this is probably related to the LimaCharlie kernel driver loading. So we have a thin kernel module that gets loaded. So that's kind of interesting. If I want to, so that's kind of the simplified view. If I want to see, I want to see the raw view, which is, what's exactly contained within that event. It's JSON. So it's LimaCharlie, everything's JSON. And if we set up forwarder, which is the next thing that I'll kind of go through, it's this JSON that will be sent. So that's a record, an event that you'll get on the other side. So in this case, it's going to be a Windows event log, but a little bit more the Windows event log because it's going through LimaCharlie. It means that it will be decorated with routing information that all LimaCharlie events get from the EDR. So that routing information will give you, at the time this event was generated, what was the external IP address of that box? What was the internal IP of that box? The host name. what were the tags related to that sensor. So that's a specific like platform code and architecture code to tell you exactly what you're dealing with. Um, so those and the device ID. So LimaCharlie now supports a device ID, which is a roll up of what could be multiple sensors. So we have sensors for Chrome and Chrome OS. So in Chrome, that means you get under the HTTPS without doing interception. You have like a Windows sensor. So conceptually, you could be running both of those on the same box. The device ID now auto detects this and will give you a specific ID for the device where multiple sensors are located. This becomes extremely powerful when you have, for example, Windows as well as Chrome running on there. So you get like, header level information into all the requests that are going out, but also LCNet, which gives you full pipe access to that box, right? So LCNet is the micro segmentation zero trust service. And that now means that you can start treating all the aspects of visibility that you have about a specific box, regardless of where it comes from, what type of sensor it comes from. And that means you can start doing detections based on that. We have response components now that are aware of what a device is, and that will allow you to, for example, tag a whole device. So you can have a rule that will tag the entire device with a new tag at runtime with the TTL. So, for example, I could have a rule that is waiting, right, that we just created around the LSAS access. And I could say as a response, I want to, when that happens, apply the PCAP tag, which is a random tag I made up, to the whole device, so that I can now have a LimaCharlie net policy that says all LCNet sensors, so like network pipes that have the PCAP tag, should do full packet capture. That's all done in the cloud. It's not done at the endpoint, for LCNet. It's all done in the cloud, so there's no impact on the host. And that means that when my detection triggers, I will apply the tag to the whole device that will include LCNet. And LCNet will say, oh, you now want me to do full packet capture. Good to go. It'll kick off immediately the full packet capture on that endpoint. All the PCAPs that it generates get re-ingested into LimaCharlie. So they'll come in as artifacts because they're kind of an external source. They'll come in as artifacts. LimaCharlie allows you to very easily say, hey, when I ingest a PCAP, I want to run it through the Zeek service, which runs in the LimaCharlie cloud. So now that PCAP can make it directly through Zeek, run in Zeek, all the logs get populated, re-sent into LimaCharlie that can parse the Zeek logs into JSON. So now you can create automated rules detecting stuff on Zeek. So you can see that, LimaCharlie is not a one-trick pony. I really like what's been mentioned pretty recently by a colleague, this idea that, do cybersecurity, not IT. And so instead of setting up a Zeek server somewhere, setting up cron jobs to like monitor directories for PCAP files, do PCAP at a gigantic network pipe that you have somewhere, cut the PCAPs based on the IP that you detect, that particular client you're interested in has, and then monitor, in Splunk or whatever it is that you have for, specific Windows event logs and when they occur, instead of doing all that glue code, all that infrastructure, all that maintenance stuff, you can get that set up in LimaCharlie in about 5 minutes. And the beauty of it is that once you've set it up, if you have multiple tenants yourself, so if you're an MSSP or something like that, you can just use infrastructure as code. So you can export your tenant to config, decide what pieces of that config go for all of your tenants. And then you get a new tenant coming in. Maybe it's a new customer. Maybe you're doing an IR. You just go apply this to that tenant. And then a minute later, you're up and running. All that automation is done nothing to maintain. You're not wrestling with maintaining cron jobs or any of that stuff. Sorry, I get sidetracked. It's really really cool stuff. So um, the last bit I thought maybe second last bit is, we did our DNR rule earlier. Let's go check it out. I just wanted to show, like, help visualize a little bit for you. So um, right, the part that might seem a little bit more like voodoo is kind of the path in here. So the path in our rule that says, like, hey, here's the value I want to compare and decide whether or not I should alert on something. um, you see it's event all caps, system event ID. So if we switch back here, you can see it's just kind of like an XPath. So it's event, system, event ID. So it's just, it's like a path on the directory where I'm just saying, here's, in the JSON where you want to go and find the value you're interested in. So it's really straightforward. It'll take you a couple minutes to like grok it, and then you're good to go. Cool. So our Windows event logs are starting to roll in. I can refresh that and filter on WL. So I'm gonna minimize this. You can start like, hey, yeah, they're all starting to roll in. All the different Windows event log types, with all the content, and it works on Windows event log sources. So if you have custom sources, it can totally be in there. If you're running sysmon or any of those things, you're good to go. Cool. Last bit, we talked about showing you, hey, maybe you have a data lake, you have your own rule sets already set up somewhere. You want to do your own processing, and so you want a copy in real time of the event logs, right? Like this, like the JSON that I've kind of been showing. So what you really want is called an output in LimaCharlie land. It's really straightforward. So you're saying, I want to send my LimaCharlie data somewhere else. It's not a like Uber super premium, double secret pricing feature. It's just built in. And here's the basic format of it. So I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to kind of keep it like straightforward. Archival is, maybe really what I want is, I don't actually want to operationalize those rules in some other system like right now. I totally could, but often you don't want. Maybe you're good enough with the alerting that LimaCharlie does. However, maybe you want to say, you know what? If something does happen, I want to have all my Windows events somewhere where I can access them in like a split second and just load them into some other system. We have the APIs, and you saw the historical view if you want to go and click and or programmatically through the SDK access your data. But sometimes there's nothing like a text file with JSON records in it. So this is what it's for. So archival is what I'm going to call it, and the module that I want to use. So we supported a bunch of different technologies. For reliability in general advice would be to either do GCS, which is Google Cloud Storage, or S3, right? So it's AWS, Amazon, or Google Cloud. They're roughly very similar services, just raw bulk upload of data. And the reason that I'd recommend that is that they are extremely highly available services. So if that goes down, like, stuff is really going bad. They are very highly available. They'll scale. It doesn't matter. You have a tenant with one tenant, that's fine. It'll cost you next to nothing. You have an org with 50,000 tenants in LimaCharlie, no problem. You don't have to ever worry or think about it. It'll go. The other advantage is that it's batch-based, meaning we're going to collect those events for a small time window and then upload that as a single file. And that makes it easier for retry. So if somehow, the internet gremlins occur and a batch can't go through, it'll get retried a few times. So again, increase reliability. Whereas if you're using something like syslog over TCP, you know, sometimes internet gremlins, things go, down, your connection goes down, or, you get 50,000 endpoints into your tenant and it's your first big tenant. And it turns out that the virtual machine, that you have somewhere that's waiting for the syslog connection can't cope with it. Well, now you're going to start dropping data. So if you're going through S3 or GCS, it's a great staging ground. The other useful one that you could do is webhook bulk, which is very, very similar to uploading to S3 or GCS. The difference is that you're going to be uploading to a webhook, so over HTTP somewhere. That makes it really easy to set up a cloud function or a Lambda, again, GCS or S3, AWS, I should say. And the idea is that those allow you to create, a Lambda or a cloud function, and those also scale extremely well, but they're actual code. So it's also a great way of staging, how you want to ingest the data from LimaCharlie without having to come back in LimaCharlie and say, okay, I want to tweak this and that. All your data makes it to a cloud function that you control somewhere that, it'll scale. And then from that cloud function, you can have all the logic you want, maybe some specific events you want to treat in a different way, or you want to massage them, how, the format, all that stuff. It's kind of a great way to do that. So in this case, if I say, GCS, I come in and I say the event stream. So there's multiple things that you can output in LimaCharlie. So events is kind of all the raw telemetry that you get. Detections is alerts that you generate through LimaCharlie. So that's a good way to get alerts to other systems. Audit is all things audit logs about LimaCharlie. A user got added to my tenant, all these kinds of things. Deployment is meta information about your tenant. So for example, a new sensor enrolled. It itself is not new telemetry, but we create a specific event that looks like a LimaCharlie event that goes into that stream. So you can create automations. Maybe you want to have a cloud function that does stuff anytime a new sensor enrolls into your organization. So you can easily set up like that pipe there. An artifact is a stream of the information about the artifacts coming in. The artifact itself is not going to be included in that stream because we ingest full memory dumps. We're not going to kind of start not randomly, but blindly publishing, 16 gigabyte files over like a webhook. But what we'll do is that we'll put all the metadata about it in that stream. So you can have a system that listens for those, and you get the basic info on that artifact. And then your system might say, oh, I actually do want that artifact. I'm going to use the API in LimaCharlie, super simple API, and go say, hey, give me that artifact, export it to me. And then you can download it, grab it. So you only get, you only take what you need. So in this case, I want event because those Windows event logs come in through that. Prefix data, right. So that is, there's some massaging that you can do around events. As you saw, we emit JSON, which is nested JSON. We like it because it allows us to add a lot of nice kind of encapsulation to the data that we generate. However, a lot of systems out there don't like anything that is not flat. Namely, for example, Elastic. So in those cases, you can apply some massaging to it to ensure that it's kind of a nicer format for your system. So prefix data, all that it means is that it'll take the event type of your event, and it'll prefix the JSON, all the JSON object with that. So some systems don't like seeing the same tag at different spots in like same JSON key in different places in the JSON. That allows you to get a unique path into that JSON. Um, delete on failure. Sometimes you create a basic output that really you're going to drive for an hour and then it's going to like drop and you don't care about it. So real time view is a lot like that. So you can say if I enable this, I'm going to be saying as soon as the output fails, the connection drops, whatever it is, I want you to go and delete that output. Investigation ID, I won't get into it, but allows you to really specify threads of events that you're interested in. The tag is going to say that I only want events from a specific set of boxes that have that given tag. Again, meh. Sensor ID, specific find sensor ID, flatten. Take all that JSON and just flatten it into like a single list of key values. So we'll generate new keys that has the path. Again, that's really a lot for Elastic. In our case, GCS, so we want to put the bucket name here. So I'm going to put my bucket name here. I would put my my service key here, so that GCS is Google Cloud Storage, so Google Cloud Service. I can define how long I want that time window of the batches to be. Maybe I'll say 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds, I'm going to cut that file and upload it. Index data, less relevant, that we'll create like summary index files for some stuff. You probably don't want that. Compressed, so yes, I want it to be gzip compressed, lighter on bandwidth. And in our case, that's the big key. I want to say, you know what, I don't care about any other events, that the WEL events, which if I go back here, you can see like that's the event type we asked for. That's what it is, like event type. So I want WEL event, and then just create. I'm not going to create it. I mean, like that's a dummy key. I can probably create it. I'm going to get an error, but whatever. So I've created it. The error I'll get is going to be asynchronous, and it's going to show up in platform logs in my errors. If I go have a look, a little red thing will pop up because it's asynchronous, horizontally scalable. So in this case, however, here we go. My output's created. It's good to go. From now, like from a couple of seconds, it will start trying to upload those batches to that destination. And in this case, it might be an archival thing. Cool. Ton of stuff. I got sidetracked quite a bit by a lot of stuff about LimaCharlie. We just have so much that we could talk about. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Can't think of anything else. Cool. So I'll end it here. See ya.